Everyone, DisturbedShadow here, finally getting back to my series of reviews of albums that came out 10 years ago. Now, I usually try to get these out on the release dates, but my schedule got kind of crazy and I kind of had to stop doing reviews for a while. But I'm back and I plan to start putting out the reviews I've been meaning to, starting with the next album that came out 10 years ago, which was about 2 weeks ago-ish, and that is the third album from Mudvayne entitled Lost and Found, which is one of my personal favorite albums from this band. Now, this album came back on April 12th, 2005, and is now April 23rd, 2015 as of this recording. So it's been a little over 10 years since this album came out. So now let's just jump in and see how well this thing holds up 10 years down the road. So let's just jump right in and talk about some of the personal favorite tracks on the album. The first one I want to talk about is the opener, Determined, which is one of the heavier songs of the album. It's got this really big, powerful, groovy riff to it, and there's just all this crazy drumming and stuff. It's just got a lot of heavy scream vocals throughout the whole thing. It's just a really heavy, fast number to open up the song. It's just, open up the album, and it's just an interesting way to start the album, just by punching you in the face, essentially. Next track I want to talk about is track number 2, Pushing Through, which has a kind of cool, catchy sort of riff. But what I really like about this song is the bass on the song. It's just got this really nice, groovy, percussive feel to it. It just sounds really great. Track number 3 is easily my favorite song from Mudvayne of all time, and obviously my favorite song on this album, which is the one of the big popular single, Happy, with a question mark. I just think it's just a really good song. It's got these big, heavy, catchy riffs in the chorus and in the opening part, and then it's got a more melodic sound to it in the verses. It just has a great sound to it with the use of acoustic guitars and more melodic playing, and then more heavy riffs. And then there's just some really great moments on the bass and the drums throughout the whole thing. And it's just got really powerful lyrics, really powerful vocals from Chad. It's just all around a great sound to the song. It's just one of my favorite Mudvayne songs of all time. It's just got a really great sound to it. Track number 4, I Am In. I think you pronounce it I'm in, because that's how he pronounces it in the actual lyrics. This song is sort of interesting. I never really paid much attention to it just because it had this sort of long intro type thing where it's just weird sound effects. And it's just kind of a long song in general. But going back for this review, I actually paid a lot more attention than I normally do, and I realized it's actually a really good song, and I don't know why I would skip it all the time when it came up on a shuffle or something like that. But it's just a really interesting song. It's got some really heavy start-stop sort of style riffing, and it's got really heavy vocals throughout the whole thing. But what I found interesting about the song is about somewhere in the middle, about halfway through, there's this where the bass is just turned up really loud, and then there's a cool effect on it, just where the bass becomes the focus of the song. It's just an interesting thing that they did there, and it just sounds really good. That's really all I have to say about that track. Track number 5, Falling to Sleep, is sort of the more ballady type song on this album, where it's got a more melodic, slowed down sound in the verses, and then has a big, soaring, melodic chorus there. Sort of, it's a little bit different than anything else on this album because it's more of a ballad type song. Nothing really else of note on the song other than it's a good song worth checking out. The next song I want to talk about is Rain, Sun, Gone, which has some great moments on the bass and the drums, and it's just got this really cool riff. There's a few cool riffs throughout the whole song. It just keeps things nice and interesting. And there's some cool different drum bits throughout the whole song that keeps things mixed up and nice and different, and it's just a really good song. Track number 7, Choices. This is another one that sort of intrigued me because it's just a really long song. It's the longest Mudvayne song to date at 8 minutes and 5 seconds long. It's just got some interesting parts to it, and it's sort of a more progressive-y song that it changes over time, which is something Mudvayne did a lot more of on this particular album. It's just got some really interesting heavy parts towards the beginning, and then a big, more melodic singing and melodic guitar playing towards the end. It sort of slowly changes from heavier to more melodic. And then what was interesting at the end of the song is where, there's a bunch of, sound bites from various famous speeches from presidents and other notable, public figures like that, sort of all mashed together, and then there's some, a marching beat behind it, and the sound of, soldiers marching. It's just an interesting way to end the song. It's just an interesting thing that they did there in that song. Track number 8, Forget to Remember, which is another one of my personal favorite Mudvayne songs. It's got a really interesting vibe to it, where it's got this sort of more soft melodic thing going on in the verses, and then it gets a lot heavier in the choruses, and it's just got this really, excuse me, a really good chorus that really pulls you into the song. It's just a really good song to check out. And finally, the last song I want to talk about is track number 11, All That You Are, which is another more ballady song. It's got this really slow melodic intro and outro bit, and then more clean guitar style in the verses, and then it gets heavier in the choruses. And it's just a really interesting song to listen to, and I just really like the way it all turned out. So those are it for my my individual thoughts on my thoughts on the individual tracks themselves. And I'll just jump in and talk about the band members themselves. So we'll start with Chad on vocals. This guy's got a really unique sounding voice, and I haven't heard anyone quite sounding like him in anything that he's in any other project. He sort of has a really distinct sound to his voice. Whether it's that like more gruff sounding singing that he does, or like these high pitched screams that he does, that I haven't really heard from anyone else before. The particular style of screaming and singing that he does. So it's pretty easy to recognize him, and it's cool that he's really standing out from other vocalists. And he's also doing a great job with using these different styles together. Like he'll start off with like the high-pitched screamy type of stuff, then it'll sort of flow really nicely into the more melodic singing that he does. And then the way he alternates between these different styles, it just flows really nicely throughout all the songs. Like in the song Happy, where it's more melodic in the verse, and then as they're building up to the chorus, it'll get a little rougher with the singing, and then there are parts towards the end where it brings in the screaming to just give it a bit of heaviness to it. It's just, he knows when to use all his various styles of screaming, and he's got quite a nice range in that regard. So he's doing a great job on vocals. And then lyrically, he's got a lot of great lyrics to the whole thing, whether it's dealing with personal struggles or suicide or political issues. He's got it all covered on all these different tracks, and just really great, well-written songs in terms of the lyrics. Greg on guitars. There's a lot of interesting riffs throughout this whole album with this really intricate sort of start-stop style. It's a bit technical in some places, more simplistic in other places. It's really interesting, just the particular style. Like on IMN, there's just so many parts where it's like a few chords stop, a few chords stop. It's just interesting that it's like that. And then there's songs like Happy, where it's more simplistic riffs and use of acoustic guitars and stuff. So he's doing a great job of trying out a bunch of different styles across this album. So no real complaints for Greg on guitars. Matt on the drums. There are so many cool drum parts on this album. It's just so varied about what he's doing. Whether a song like The Turn, where it's all this heavy, fast, technical drumming, or a song like Happy, where it's more pulled back drumming. And then there's some songs like Pushing Through, where the focus really is on the rhythm section, where there's just so much cool drumming and interesting fills to keep things interesting. And just so many parts where there's this really technical drumming throughout the whole thing. It just has a really great sound. Especially there are some songs, such as Fallen to Sleep, where there's a lot of technical drumming on top of more simplistic, the more simplistic aspects of the guitars and the singing. So it just has a nice contrast there, and it's cool that he's throwing in all these technical bits, even in the more pulled back simplistic songs, to give them a nice feel to them. And finally, Ryan Martini on the bass. This guy is one of my favorite bassists of all time. He's just got such a unique sound, and just really percussive sound on the bass, and it's always turned up nice and loud. Jokingly, I like to say that Mudvayne is one of the few bands that has a lead bassist, because there's just all these ridiculous parts where the bass is the focus. Like I mentioned earlier on there's just this part where the bass is turned up really loud. And then there's parts on like Rain, Sun, Gun, where there's just these really loud percussive bass sounds that is really interesting, and they really stand out beyond the guitars and the drums and all that, where you really go, wow, that bass is really awesome. And a lot of parts like on All That You Are and Happy and Rain, Sun, Gone, where the guitar sort of pulls back to a more simplistic quiet, soft, melodic sound, and then the bass really is the focus. It's just really interesting that they put so much emphasis on the bass, and it really makes Mudvayne stand out. And I really think that Ryan is a really underrated bassist. He's got such a great sound and such a unique sound to his bass playing, and it just adds a really nice element to this album that really makes it stand out. So overall, I think this is definitely one of Mudvayne's better albums, and it's one of my personal favorite albums from this band. So it's definitely worth checking out if you want to start. If you're new to Mudvayne, this is a great place to start, and I really do think that it holds up 10 years down the road as one of their better albums. So go check it out, and I will see you guys very soon when I continue on with the Trivium discography. See you guys next time.